Meeting for March 7th. I would ask you to all rise and we will have the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Once again, welcome everybody to the March 7th Board of Commissioners meeting. Roll call, please.
Brooks.
Present.
Bear.
Present.
Ziegler.
Present.
Sykes.
Present.
Overmars.
Present. Open meetings law is posted on the south side of our chambers. It's in the hallway outside of our chambers. It is also on our website. Proof of publication was on our website as well as in the York News Times March 2nd. Okay, next up we need to review and approve the minutes of the February 21st Commissioner meeting.
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Brooks.
Yes.
Ziegler.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes.
And Overmars.
Yes. Adopt today's agenda.
I move to adopt today's agenda.
Thank you, Stan.
Second.
Thank you, Jack. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Bear.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Ziegler.
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
Overmars.
Yes. Okay, first off, we will start with officials forum. We got a couple of them here. Question is, do they want to talk?
Sure. And good
Morning, Harv.
Morning.
I have my annual report that I will hand you guys so that you can read it at your leisure of what we done in 22. You're welcome. And then I will get on with the report. We're still hauling gravel into
Dang it.
the county. We're doing what we have always done. Bridge inspections, started doing bridge inspections. We had 18 of them to do in March. We have 11 of them done. We just have to enter them into the computer at this point in time. There's a little ice on some of the tricks, so I have to go back and get some of the measurements off of some of the first 11 that we have done. Then that will go on forward. We are starting to router to crack seal our new pavements, because our new pavements this winter decided to crack. We knew they were going to, it just when. Well, they have, so now we're routering them so we can get them crack sealed so we can maintain what we have invested in the bond. That's where we are there. Down on Road O, the bridge down there at Sachs Lake, they have all the piles drove for the abutments, for the piers. They are forming up abutment 2 or the north abutment now, getting the rebar put into it. They're anticipating pouring toward the end of the week or the first of next, depending on what Mother Nature deals with them. Road 20, the bridge is up there. They have the pier on the west bridge, is all the piles are drove in it. They have the formed up for the pier. They was working on getting the rebar and everything in. Once again, that will be done either toward the end of this week or next week, depending on what Mother Nature does with them there. So those projects are going forward there. Other than that, we're still hauling gravel into the county. We're still trying to start getting our roads maintained, just doing our normal stuff. So that's all I have this morning.
We're coming to the end of, or we're coming to the daylight savings time. And
Yep.
historically in the past, obviously, we've went to 4:10s when it
Yes.
comes to daylight savings time. I assume the plans are to do that again. That's not to say that there isn't somebody, I know you've said in the past that on Fridays, you're still in and out around and other things like that. Obviously, the general public is not necessarily 410s or they're here. Do we offer on Fridays, where can people call? Do they have to call our call center and then the call center gets, in case we need stuff, in case somebody needs something. I had this question posed to me.
If there's an emergency, they would call the call center.
And they get
The
ahold
call
of you.
center would get a hold of me and we would handle it from whatever is going on.
Whatever it is.
And once again, I would try to keep the road trucks hauling gravel on Friday. If need be, we'll have the graders out on the road, depending on what the conditions are. So, yes, but no, if there's an emergency, my
Call
phone,
center.
my right phone is, well, both of my phones are on 24/7, 365, so I really never get a break or a vacation, because no matter where I'm at, I will answer the phone. Middle of the night, Kansas City, Shadron, I answer the phone, I take care of the business, I send it down to whoever needs to be taken care of in York County. Because when I'm not in York County, I make sure there is somebody else that is here available to be here, so we don't just, all the top people of the road department are not all gone the same weekend, let's put it that way. We always have things covered. So when the call comes in, I make the call to where it needs to go and away we go.
Okay, perfect.
So,
Does anybody have anything else so far this morning?
Not this morning, I guess.
cool.
Gravel's going from the off side of the weather to the north side now.
We are now starting to work our gravel windrows and bringing it out, starting to get it across there. Still trying to make sure they keep it to the south side because we aren't quite done with snow. According to our guesstimation, we have 2 more snows coming. We just don't know when they're going to be or how much they are, and we just need to know if it's always on the east or the south side. They know where the windrow is so they can stay out of it, not blow it off in the road, off in the ditch.
Thanks, Harv.
You bet, have a good one.
You too. Any other officials? Nick, you're on the agenda. Lori, Gary.
If I could just be briefly heard. I'd just like to introduce Mr. Nathan Hines. I've hired him to be a deputy in my office, full-time, 30 hours a week. I've developed a relationship with Nathan for the last going on 10 months now, and he is going to make my office even better than it already is. And from that standpoint, as being here for 10 months, I can't express how privileged I am to have individuals like Mr. Johnson, Chris Johnson, Amanda, Jen, Dave, Tristan on my staff. And I'm just extremely overjoyed with the County of York having citizens like this that can work for me and for our community and truly make us, I think, where we're heading into even a better phase where what I can do in my job. And I'm just thankful for the board supporting me for the last several months, and I'm just very grateful. Thank you. I do have court. Court does call, district court calls at 9 o'clock, and we're going to head up there now. And but again, thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you.
Any other officials this morning? Okay, not seeing any come up. Before public comment, I'd like to make a comment myself. Over time, we have the opportunity to go to training and workshops and figure out what we're lax at and maybe what we have said wrong in the past. And the one thing that I have done wrong is we used to call this public forum, and it's not a public forum, it's public comment. So we did change that a couple weeks ago. It's not a Q&A session, it's where the public can come forward and can give comments. The other thing that I would say would be that anything that's not on the agenda, and that's not necessarily right either, you can comment on anything because the agenda, the public by the open meetings law has the right to be at any and all of our gatherings and our meetings. But they don't have the right to participate throughout the whole meeting. They are here to observe. So when I say that when I'd say before that they could step forward and comment on anything that wasn't on the agenda wasn't right. They can, because that's really their only time, unless we have a public hearing, which in fact that will be advertised, and then at that time they can get up. So as always, the workshops are something we can take out of them. We can learn where we goof up, and that's where I've goofed up in the past. So at this time, public comment is open. anybody from the public that wants to step forward and comment on anything, they may do so for a couple minutes. Now that I've confused everybody.
Silence is golden.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Okay. Seeing nobody step forward, we will continue down the agenda. There is no need for an executive session that I'm aware of today, and there is no general assistance cases, so we will go on to the vendor and payroll. There are 2 additional claims. One of them is for $286.64, and this is from NPPD. And where does that go, Kelly? Who's this now? York County Shop. And the other one is for $50, and this will be out of the commissioners. That's to attend the Central District meeting. So those are the 2 additional claims that are added to today. Anybody see anything that they may have questions about in there?
My only question when I asked Mary about it was just the buyback. There's a couple of buyback categories, and it's just a category. It's not a transfer fund or nothing special, so I just had that.
You got those answered?
Yes.
Okay.
Would make a motion that we approve the payroll and vendor claims with the 2 stated additional claims.
Thanks, Daniel.
Second.
Thank you, Stan. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Brooks.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes.
Sigmund.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
And Coleman.
Yes. Okay, there are no funding transfers. I do not believe the next agenda item, anybody is here to speak to that one. At least I do not see that. The education on carbon pipelines, you had not heard anything from them, neither had I since the last January. So next up, Tristan, discuss on the JS grant, juvenile diversion.
Morning, Commissioners.
And just for the benefit of the 2 new commissioners, you might give this a little bit of background, if you would too, please, Tristan.
Yeah, so, for today, I was bringing up one of our grants that we got last year, and it's just through the Nebraska Crime Commission, and they just sent it out after the last 2 grants that came out in January. And so this will be just to kind of get any more additional funding for the juvenile diversion. And my aim for this is to have our part-time guy continue and even maybe get some more hours. And so we got a part-time employee in January from one of the additional grants that the Crime Commission gave us. And so hopefully, if we would get the approved amount for this grant, he would either continue past July or get more hours in July, something like that. So depending on this grant, will kind of show us if the Crime Commission is willing to give us that additional money. So, and I was doing some math with getting him full-time, and if you're looking around, if we stuck, right now we're paying him $23 an hour, so right now, if we went to full 40, it'd be somewhere around the 53, 55. And so, just wanted to kind of get your guys' opinions, answer any questions, anything like that. And the grant isn't due until the end of March, and so I'll probably get on next session and want to act on it.
Okay, so the grant that we applied for, and knowingly we were gonna, if we got this, that was back in December, if we got this grant, that would give the individual like 6 months, and we knew that going into it. Obviously, because of not being budgeted, we weren't sure where we could put it, so we put it in miscellaneous so we could draw down, and we was able to do that. Like with your position, this grant has been funded, not solely, but majority has been funded through the Crime Commission. And then with York County kicks in just a little bit. But knowing that if that grant ever went away, it's, your position may go away. So this position that you're talking about for the next person, do they know that if the grant goes away, that doesn't mean that they are a permanent employee with York County, that their position possibly goes away?
Yep, I've kind of informed him and shown him the process of every year applying for grants and how it will fluctuate depending on legislature and stuff like that. So he's fully aware of the changing tides every fiscal year.
So this grant coming up, and for us in the middle of our budget year, is this additional funds that have come in or leftover funds that the Crime Commission has?
So this is a completely different pot from the other CB and EB grant. And so I believe it's still about that half the million that is spread out between all the counties. And it's kind of a first come, first served basis. Unlike our CB grant where they approve each county for a specific amount. Ours was $35,000, and then the EB grant is what we apply for after that, and it comes out of the additional funds that aren't requested from other counties through the CB. And so this one is just a different funding source that they give all the counties an additional chance to add anything.
And with that, and guys, if you have any more questions, but with that grant, for instance, your grant or the grant that we pay for Tristan, one grant pays for his wages, the other grant, because he's full-time, pays for his benefits. With this grant, when you're talking about bumping hours up, now all of a sudden we're in a full-time status, does that take care of that? Or does the responsibility of the county too?
So it should take care of it. If we want to just try for the full, getting all the benefits and everything, just include it in there. And the Crime Commission can always give us a partial award. So if they think it's too much money or something like that, you can always split it up or something. I don't think they've done that ever in the past, but it's the same requirements and everything that my benefits and salary come out of. So we won't run into any regulations of can't pay for health insurance or anything.
Okay.
So the CB's been awarded, the $35,000's been awarded.
Yep, and then
And the EB, the $39,000, that's what they're trying for now, or it's been awarded also?
both of those have been awarded.
So this is a third grant that you're seeking through this extra.
Correct.
Okay, now, on the comment sheet that was filed, it talked about addressing Hispanics and the age groups. Have those issues been resolved with
Yeah.
the application?
So I had a meeting with one of the Crime Commission employees, and they said it was just kind of wording that we had to change, and it was my mistake for interpreting it as which demographic we specifically target, and so I just have to change it to the demographics that are encompassed in the whole program. And so that's just an instance where I'll just retype it and send it off this week. So,
And it's retroactive for the two grants that we've already received.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Daniel?
So, help me, this is for, if you apply for this grant, it would be, coming in for this budget year, or are we looking forward-looking, and this would be for a grant for the next budget year?
For next budget year, for 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, so, it wouldn't come in until July 1st is when we'd be able to access the money.
Right.
And, after all the monthly expenses requests and stuff like that, so yeah. going for next month.
Right. So basically, we're operating as we are currently with a part-time employee. If we were awarded this grant, we could potentially make that part-time employee a full-time employee.
Yes.
Okay.
As of right now, it would be kind of towards, so our juvenile programs are diversion, truancy, and juvenile support. And so right now I'm solely diversion, and then the part-time is truancy and juvenile support. And truancy is probably the biggest one we need more hours in, and would give me some space to kind of figure out program details and making sure that we're running efficiently. So for truancy, we're looking at about 50 cases in York County right now that are split up between me and the part-time, and then I have an additional about 20 some diversion. So that's my main push for full-time is we definitely could use more man-hours.
So, this position, your position, was operated by your mother-in-law.
Right.
And then you took over. And so was we falling behind then, or just holding our own? That, because when we start talking about, adding staff and whatever, I mean, is that the case that, or is there just that much more going on? Because I don't know that you can argue against help with the truancy and diversion. Obviously, those young people need that help.
Right.
But is there just that much more of it, or was we just not holding our own back then?
I think everywhere in the state has seen a rise in truancy. Before I kind of started, I know it was focused solely kind of on York public schools, and so far we still are getting most of our cases from the public schools, and so I think another thing that kind of goes into more cases is the cohesiveness of communication from diversion to county attorney, especially because diversion-wise, they're the ones that refer all of the cases over. Right now, I think what Rochelle was struggling with is our past county attorney was not referring any really cases for diversion because, like statistic-wise, last year I think she served 9 cases over the whole fiscal year, and even before I hired the part-time employee in January, we were only about 10 cases, and so this 2023 year has really jumped up, and can't say for sure why we've gotten more coming through the office.
Okay.
Justin, what strategies are used for your truancy thing? Is it kind of a game of hide and seek, go find them and get them and drag them back to school, or what's going on with that whole thing?
So we do a little of the hide and seek, but I'm working towards getting a collaborative attendance plan built, and that will look like we'll meet with family and student, and then we'll meet with school administrative representatives, like the principal and stuff like that, and the school counselor, and we'll come up with requirements and benefits that we can help the family push towards self-reliance instead of me and Brennan chasing them down and calling them every month. So.
Any other questions this morning for Tristan?
Not at this point, I
As you
guess.
see, it's on the agenda as discussed. Obviously, it's up to us whether we want to act, and that you will put on the next. Okay, so if there's any questions you guys think of from now till then, obviously, if you don't have Tristan's contact information, I'm sure we can get it through Kelly, and you can get those questions answered. Okay? Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yep,
Thanks.
thanks, Tristan. Okay, next up, Nick. We did not have any paperwork
I
that
did
was
not, nope, I just got it.
presented
I got
to
it
us.
right here. You want
Okay.
it? I got one copy, and then I'll send it out. Okay, I think it says, what does it say on there? Vehicle price, so we agreed on that 37,000 on this one that they had, they sold that before we did get to it. So that's why we were back again here. We ended up hitting a new month of March here, so there was new incentives, all this. So I asked for a new bid from them on that car that was there. Conveniently, it comes in obviously lower than the rest, at $38,455. It's the same vehicle that was presented before. They had originally had it at $39,655, so it's a $1,200 off of what they originally bid with the incentives from Friesen. The next one was $38,615, so $200, not quite $200 more. And the one before that was, or the one next is $38,960, so a little bit more, but it is at roughly $1,500, give or take there a little bit. So I figured I'd better come back and do the right steps, jump through the right hoops, rather than ask for forgiveness. Like, well, he's not here anymore, so I figured I'd just be. It was the start of the downfall, I thought, so I figured I didn't want that. So figured I'd go through the right steps and ask for approval for a little more money. I apologize, but it would be here by the end of the month, in our possession. I got County Government Day in Geneva here in a little bit, and then I was running over there, and if we had approved this, make sure that it was ours. So that was through Friesen Chevrolet.
You have a bid on
I
it,
got a bid right here.
and that vehicle is gonna be held for us.
Delivery of mid next week is what she said.
Okay.
And that, yes, that's the exact same VIN number and everything that I had here on the other one, and it will be held with that is the purchase agreement for it.
Okay.
So that'll have our name on
That's the same Equinox.
it. Yeah, same thing as everything that the one we actually approved, just price difference is the only thing that unfortunately. So, and if this one doesn't go through, I think I might just go out home now. It's a time-consuming thing.
So obviously, the last time we approved a certain amount of money, and that was it, so. Nick had reached out to me and
I'm just going through the proper
Come back
steps,
again.
the proper chain of command, and trying to do what's right. So that's why I'm here today.
okay.
Did you push on them a little harder and
I
said,
asked for $2,500 off, I'll be honest. I said, we're writing one check. Can you just eat the $1,200? There's no budget.
Mhm.
And it's like any, I mean, you drive around, you see the used, or the car dealerships. I mean, we don't have much to choose from, you know, when you look at the dealerships around, so they go pretty quick, so.
So what's your wishes, guys?
Well, I made the motion last time to go ahead with the approval. We did approve it 4-1, and that was to spend the amount that was issued last time. They sold it out from under us, that's not our fault. Actually, I think that's pretty dirty business on their part, but I think we should go ahead and add the additional, what did you say, 1,200,
Roughly, give or take right there, 1,200,
and
1,300.
go ahead with the purchase. That's my motion.
Thank you.
I'll second
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Sykes,
Yes.
Ziegler, Bear,
Yes.
Rhodes,
nope?
and Hobart.
Yes. Before you take off, you're going to Geneva, but tomorrow is
Yes,
York.
yeah, because I like hating myself. so
Okay.
I do too, in a row, back to back.
All right.
Yes, 8:30, County Government Day at the Armory, yes. Thank you.
I was just gonna say, don't wait till you're done down there. Call them right now and
I'm gonna call them on the guy.
tell them it was approved.
I already texted her this morning and said, hey, that's still ours, we still have that.
Very
We
good.
have, yes, so. You're gonna sign that right away?
I am.
Is there signage that goes on this vehicle to say, hey, we're
We will, yeah. Yeah, Kurt and I actually talked about that, making it so it says York County, all that jazz, so we will. Jack and I, at our meetings, have had, in the past, when we started this process of getting signage for it. Thank you. Thank you. So, yeah, there will be some signage on it. Thank you.
Okay. We passed something on the agenda.
Meeting started at 9.
That's fine.
Chairman, I'm sorry.
If you would like to come forward at this
Great.
time, we can jump right into it and
Okay.
take care of that. That
Sounds
way
good.
I don't get too confused myself. So, please introduce yourself and for the
Yes.
record, please.
My name is Jane Clabb. I am the
Thank you.
president of Bull, Nebraska. Now the Bull Alliance, we're working in other states. And I live at 1010 North Denver, Hastings, Nebraska. And have spent lots of time in York over the years with landowners and elected officials and citizens on the Keystone XL pipeline, as I'm sure some of you remember, where we were in front of the board a lot trying to get oil pipeline regulations in place, setbacks, emergency response plans, et cetera. And so we're in front of you this morning to talk a little bit about the carbon pipelines that are being proposed across the Midwest, raise some concerns, and then talk a little bit about what we hope York County as well as other counties across the state will do to put regulations in place. So first, the state of Nebraska has told us a year ago, and they're sticking to it, that the Public Service Commission will not review the carbon pipeline routes. And so therefore, the landowners will have no state agency to go to with their concerns, and they'll have no due process if an eminent domain is invoked. They told us that a law that the state legislature passed only applies to oil pipelines. And so we have this now loophole for carbon pipelines in our state. That's not true for Iowa, South Dakota, and North Dakota, Minnesota, or Illinois, where these pipelines are all potentially going. Those state agencies, their equivalent of the Public Service Commission, are reviewing the pipelines and are requiring them to, for example, put forward their plume study. So when a carbon pipeline bursts, how far does the toxic waste and the toxic fumes travel? So then you as county board members could know, for example, what is an appropriate setback. You would have to know that information in order to do an appropriate setback. The federal government does not have laws in place yet around carbon pipelines. They admitted this about 6 months ago. The agency called PHMSA issued a memo saying that there are gaps in the regulatory structure around carbon pipelines, and that some basic laws, of course, apply to all pipelines, but that they don't know right now what the proper setbacks should be. They don't have, for example, a list of sample emergency response plans that states or counties could put in place around carbon pipelines. And so we're really encouraging county boards, just like many of you do around wind and solar, when a big wind farm or solar farm is coming your way and you don't have proper regulations in place yet. I know York has obviously moved forward on that. A lot of counties put moratoriums in place so they could hit the pause button, not move forward on major energy infrastructure without having the proper setbacks, decommissioning, emergency response plans in place. We're asking the same thing should be happen for carbon pipelines. We believe not only should counties put the regulations in place, we also say, which we know it's not your job, that the state legislature should be amending the Major Oil Pipeline Siting Act to include carbon pipelines. The eminent domain law is also very gray. There's certainly an area that the carbon pipeline people will probably argue that it covers the eminent domain clause around pipelines, and our legal team will argue that it doesn't cover carbon pipelines. And so there will be, just like on Keystone, a major court battle around the use of eminent domain for private gain, especially because this is not a common carrier pipeline. They are capturing carbon at ethanol plants in Nebraska, pumping that at very high pressure sometimes 2 or 3 times the pressure of what oil and gas pipelines are. So it turns into a liquid, and then they're doing that hundreds of miles across the Midwest, and they're gonna pump it into injection sites either in Illinois or in North Dakota. When these pipelines burst, I know that the pipeline companies come and pretend that this is no big deal, that it is carbon that we're releasing into the air right now, so when it bursts, it's just gonna magically go into the air and everything's gonna be fine. You know, the issue is this is concentrated toxic waste. And this is at much higher pressure and much higher levels than when the ethanol plant is producing their ethanol and carbon dioxide is released into the air. It is a different animal. It is really inappropriate that they're going to county boards and landowner meetings, because I've sat in plenty, where the pipeline companies are saying, it's just like when you open your soda can and you hear that fizz, and that tingling on your tongue. That's essentially what will happen when the pipeline leaks or bursts. That's not what will happen. Anybody who's near the pipeline will die, and anybody who's even a mile out will start to get dizzy, lightheaded, sometimes even pass out. The only example that we have in the United States of a really bad carbon pipeline bursting is in Mississippi. We don't have a lot of carbon pipelines in the United States. There's about 5,000 miles of them right now. If these pipeline companies get their way, there'll be 60,000 miles within the next 5 to 8 years is their build-out plan. And the existing carbon pipelines are not used for storage. They're used for getting more oil and gas out of the ground. So they mostly capture it from Gulf states, from manufacturing plants, oil refineries. They capture that excess carbon, and then they liquefy it to get more carbon out of the ground with a process called enhanced oil recovery. So it's a very different process, can't even really equate the two projects. So in this little guide that we have, I just will point to a couple things. On page 43, we worked with our legal team to look at state laws in order to make sure that we weren't violating any state laws with a model county ordinance that counties could put in place. So we talk about the fact that because the state is not routing the pipelines because they're saying they don't have jurisdiction because the law only says oil, that means counties can. So if the proposed pipeline is coming too close to hospitals, to schools, to major feedlots, you could ask them and tell them they need to change their route. You can do things around construction mitigation. We've all been around major construction processes. Thankfully, we didn't have to deal with Keystone XL. But you can, dictate things like topsoil management, which is obviously very critical for agriculture. You can also talk about the depth that they're required. Right now, they're basically saying 4 feet. Some counties will want 6 feet. Some will want deeper. The other thing you can do is require the company to have emergency response equipment in a required in writing emergency response training that happens once a year for all your first responders. They have started to do some kind of, not necessarily trainings, but awareness level meetings for first responders across the state that different pipeline companies have. But this should be required in writing. And they should be required to reimburse the county for the different type of emergency response equipment. And then the last one that we think the counties have jurisdiction of is about the abandonment of pipelines. So just like with solar and wind, when they're abandoned, when they're no longer of use, you have decommissioning regulations in place. You could do that for pipelines. So a landowner is then not responsible for a rotting piece of steel in their land, which eventually will come to the surface and cause problems for them. You could require the pipeline company to have a full decommissioning plan with full bonds in place. The other pages that I'll just highlight is when I talked about how PHMSA doesn't have the proper regulations in place. We kind of talk about that on pages 31 and 32, just so you know I'm not just saying that off the top of my head. The memo in there is from a group called the Pipeline Safety Trust. They did a study on the regulatory gaps, and as soon as the Pipeline Safety Trust issued this study, about a month later is when PHMSA wrote the memo to pipeline companies and Congress saying we are now in an active rulemaking process. That could take 2 years before they have those regulations in place. So that is a quick summary of the concerns that we have and what we hope the county board would consider.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah, of
Jane.
course.
Do you have additional
Yes.
copies of those? And the reason I'm asking is because obviously our zoning is meeting currently.
Yes.
They met a week or so ago. They will be meeting more at the end of the month, and this is one of the topics that they will be talking about. So if you have a couple extra,
Yep.
we can get to our
I'll leave
zoning.
them.
have plenty, how many would you like?
Well, we have, 3, 4, 5. 5 would be good.
Okay.
5 would be good. If you can just drop them off at the clerk's office or
Perfect,
something like
yeah.
that, that'd be perfect. To go. Do you have anything else?
I'm taking back one of the things you said right off the bat, was that the landowners have no redress.
That's right.
That sounds a little unconstitutional to me.
That's right.
Passing laws without having that. I was hoping the quote experts was gonna be here, because I got a problem with changing from a 4-inch pipeline to a 10-inch pipeline. And you talked about popping the top of a pop bottle cap or something. Now, how long does it take a person to suffocate? You're not gonna get emergency people out there that quick, let me
That's right.
tell you.
And their equipment won't work because,
Even getting them out there is wrong unless they start doing some changes on some of the laws that they're not passing. And that's the federal government. But then again, when you put insane people ahead of the,
yeah, there's some problems right now in the
Yeah.
Department of Transportation.
well, in 2 or 3 years, it's gonna be probably a different head of the totem pole there. So this, to me, I'm really disappointed that they weren't here, because they did not tell us the truth.
And every time they go to a meeting, I'm happy to go toe to toe with their facts versus, our facts. And you can argue that that's two sides of a coin. But they do put out a lot of misinformation.
Well, if you know anybody that's got asthma, believe me,
Yeah.
it won't even take that long. And you're not talking about dead cattle, you're talking about dead people.
Exactly. Yeah. And if it's so safe, then why aren't they giving us their plume study?
Well, I made the comment about these gases coming up and out of a lake and killing all the cattle when the people come down there. And the comment was changed to in the United States. And that wasn't in the United States, that was in Peru.
Mm.
But it still happened.
Yeah, that's right. And we're prepared, I guess it should be no surprise to anybody that will read the York Times paper or that may be watching on Zoom. We are prepared to take these pipeline companies to court if and when they do use eminent domain. Because unless the state changes the law and has the Public Service Commission do a full review process where landowners have the ability to then petition the government, it'll be the same situation of Keystone XL. So before the state put in law the Public Service Commission Major Oil Pipeline Siting Act, landowners were in the same boat that landowners are in right now with carbon pipelines. TransCanada used eminent domain, we took them to court, we went all the way to the state Supreme Court and we won. And so there's already case law. And I'm surprised that these pipeline companies weren't smarter, better neighbors, and encouraged state senators to change the laws, but they did not.
If this pipeline company goes belly up and those pipes are in the ground, what happens to them?
They are the liability of the landowners unless there is a decommissioning law within the county or the state.
And so
And they can also be sold to a different company.
that's.
So because our state,
The
that's right.
rights are part of that company and they can sell those off to anybody else. So it could go from being carbon dioxide that's being moved through a pipeline to anhydrous or some other.
100%. They own the easement forever, unlike a wind easement, for example, that's 25 years. These oil pipelines or pipeline easements, because our state hasn't stepped up to protect people's property rights, they are forever easements. They can sell it to whoever they want, China, Russia, and they can put whatever they want in it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you. And sorry, I was late.
We're all right.
$50 fine.
Okay, next up is discuss and act on appointing Dan Audi, board representative from Pool. Lori?
Yeah, Lori Byers from York County Aging Services and York County Public Transportation. Our York County Aging Services Commission Board, we ask for representatives throughout our county, and we have had vacancies in some of our rural areas, one of them being McCool Junction, and Dan Audi has agreed to serve on our board to represent McCool Junction. We are ecstatic to have him, and so we'd like to propose that this Board of Commissioners approve his appointment. And I will note, he also works for the city and he has permission. Barry Redfern is the city representative on our board and is aware of Mr. Audi's volunteering to do this.
Okay. And that's obviously March 1 as it states for 2 years.
For 2 years, yes.
Okay. Anyone?
Do, the Aging Services Board has recommended, or
Yes.
you're
We-
making the
we-
recommendation that we,
Yes, I should say that it
Yeah.
is the board that is making a recommendation to this board,
you're right.
not just me.
Sure, yep.
He was at our last board meeting and was unanimously approved.
Mhm. I would make a motion that we approve the appointment of Dan Audi to the York County Aging Services Board for a 2-year term beginning March 1, 2023.
Second.
And I would make a motion that we adopt a resolution doing said statement.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Brooks.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Weaver. Bear.
Yes.
Overmeyer.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Okay, next up, we need to discuss and act on master agreement, county surveyor, state highway projects.
He said something about he was going to be downstairs. I don't know if he had business down there
Active shooting training.
or... Okay.
So,
Yeah, you want to grab him? Or you could have Mary run down and grab him. We can keep... Or I don't
She
know.
was down there.
Oh, okay. Very
In the
good.
hallway.
Very good.
A little background on this. The state pays us, as a county, they pay our surveyor to, for instance, when we have the construction process between here and the Henderson Spur, we have to move the corners back, and then we get paid so much as in the agreement, and then come back, when the construction's done. So the state pays for that, and they ask for this agreement to be signed. Rex had some issues with the agreement, and he had been having a hard time getting a hold of them, and they finally had their state surveyors convention in February, and where Rex found out that we're county number 93. All the other counties have signed this agreement. They're not in the habit of making agreement and changing the agreement just because a county has issues with certain things like timeframes and different things like that. So Rex was able to talk to them, and even though the agreement is not changed, it's still the agreement in front of you. They come to some side agreements that we would be allowed a little bit more time. And it was all a timing issue in there. The fee is still the fee that's dictated in the agreement. Sometimes they put out unrealistic expectations, and Rex was not willing to just bend over for that. So, did everybody have an opportunity to kind of go through that just a little bit?
Well, that was my question, what was implicated, I've seen some billing that goes out to Rex, so then what are the impacts to Rex as our surveyor that the counties use? So what limitations or expansion or whatever, and so where they use that?
Yeah, when this is mainly just on the state corridors, you know, that when those projects come up or when something needs to be set back, and that's what it addresses. Come on in, Rex. Tell us who you are, just for the record. Thank you. Woody had a question here, just,
Well, my question was, what is the impact of this agreement for 5 years on you as the person that we as the county have selected to do our survey? Is it limiting you in any way? Is it expanding your responsibilities or what?
There were several things in it that I had some heartburn over, but they had their deputy state surveyor contact me, and we worked through basically that all of the things that was bothering me, that, they had, you've got 30 days, and I said, there's no way I can work that into a schedule. And right, I kind of can't think of all the things that we did. I guess notification of the project was my biggest complaint. They've sent the contract here sometimes after they've started the construction. So I said I couldn't understand when they put it in their 1 and 6 year plan, they should be able to send notification then. Or at least before they send the job to contractors to come up with a bid. And he agreed, and so it didn't sound like they were going to change anything, any of the wording in the contract, because 80% of the counties had already signed the contract and sent it back within 2 weeks of them receiving it. So I'm presuming their county surveyor never looked at it, and the board just seen it as an opportunity that they could receive more money. So like I said, I think I've worked through most of the bugs that they're not gonna try and force some of the stuff in the contract. I still have a request in with their deputy state surveyor that I would still like to meet with their attorney general representative, because they put some stuff in the contract that's also binding on them, because the local maintenance yards don't contract the county, like if they're gonna do a milling project and put down an armor coat. And so, yeah, which there again is a violation of the law or whatever. So there's things in the contract that's puts us kind of in a bind, but if they want to push the issue, there's things in the contract that goes against both of us. So, but I was basically satisfied with what we verbally came to an agreement on. So,
and the one positive aspect is the fact that we used to get paid $100 each way, and now through this contract we'll get $300, which at $100 we was losing, and at least now we're doing okay, and we're not losing, going backwards. So that is the one positive out of the contract.
It's, basically the bill is supposed to be what our costs are for me to go do it. And in the past, there was some of the work that, $100 didn't cover a third of what the cost was. But with most of the corners I've located over the years that
The only thing I need to kind of worry about now is with an asphalt road, the surface corners will move with the asphalt as traffic drives on it. So typically I'm only maybe readjusting the corner by an inch or so. So, and that's pretty minor work. It doesn't take a lot of time. I think we have one contract right now with the state for Henderson North Highway 34. That road's been armor coated, so that's gonna take me, I'm gonna have to dig through the armor coat or the asphalt overlay to find the corner to be able to tie it out. So, one of the other issues in the contract was that they wanted permanent reference monument set before construction. I typically just set like a construction tie out, and I can set the corner back from those. And because I found that during construction, the permanent ties that I set out, on Highway 34 West, I think they destroyed 8 or 9 of the permanent ones I set, so I had to go back after construction and basically do it all over again. So,
Okay, so we have the agreement in front of us, and at this time, you obviously, as being a York County surveyor, recommend that we go ahead and sign the agreement.
There's things in it that they can legally come back and say, well, you didn't do this, but verbally, I have the deputy state's word that they'll work with us on all the things that was in the contract, so.
In the past, I mean, they haven't been terrible to work with. Is that, I mean, they've been worked with us pretty good. So
Yeah.
they're more than likely that will continue. This is just more or less a formalization of a process. And
But
so
I don't see, this is a 5-year contract, and most of the highways have been 81 and 34 have been done in the last few years.
Sure.
I don't anticipate, once I get done
Right.
with the Henderson spur, that there's gonna be much construction in the next 5 years. So,
Right. Yep.
I mean, you got 34 east, but I don't know if that's even in their 1 and 6 year plan, so.
very good.
Never know, they might come get our 4-lane done.
Yeah, there you go.
It's on the agenda.
Okay, there we go, guys.
Do you need a resolution or a motion to sign?
I think there was a resolution.
There is a resolution, I think, in there, so. There,
There's the resolution.
Yep.
so I'd make a motion that we approve or make a motion to adopt a resolution to enter into the 5-year master county surveyor agreement with the state.
Thank you, Danny.
I'll second.
Thank you, Chad. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Brooks.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Ziegler.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes.
And Wolfman.
Yes. Thank you for coming up.
Thank you.
Now, don't go shoot anybody, okay?
Mhm.
Okay, at this point in time, we do have Board of Equalization, so we will need to recess as the Board of Commissioners and enter as the Board of Equalization. So once Kelly gets ready, we will do the roll call.
Brooks.
Present.
Bear.
Present.
Ziegler. Sykes.
Present.
Overall.
Present. Open meetings law is posted on the south side of our chambers. In the hallway outside of our chambers, it is also on our website. Proof of publication was on our website as well as the York News Times, March 2nd. Review and approve the minutes of February 21st Board of Equalization meeting.
Move to approve the minutes.
Thanks, Dan.
Second?
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Bear,
Yes.
Rhodes,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes.
Sykes, and Ziegler. Overmeyer.
Yes, and we need also adopt today's agenda.
Move to adopt today's agenda.
Thank you, guys. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Sykes,
Yes.
Ziegler, Bear,
Yes.
Overmeyer.
Yes. We have in front of us an application for exemption for Epworth Village. This is
I think it's just the two.
the Honda 2016 Honda Odyssey and the 2017 Chevy Impala.
Those are, must be additions.
They must be additions, yes. And this was approved. This was marked for approval by the York County Treasurer.
And are there's, they sold all their buildings and everything, but they must be still have operations here.
They currently run, I believe, the daycare
Okay.
up on 16th Street.
Mm-hmm.
That building up there,
Yep.
I think. So that's the footprint that I know of they have here.
Okay.
They also entered into an agreement with the First Methodist Church to remodel the basement to have their offices down there.
Mm. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
It looks like they have a lot of cars. Do they need that many, or what's?
I don't know.
Let's see. All listed vehicles are used to provide services to children, youth, and families.
Mhm.
Based on the county treasurer's recommendation, I would move for approval.
Thank you, Daniel.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Ziegler,
Yes.
Sykes,
Yes.
Bear,
Yes.
Overmeyer.
Yes. The county assessor asked for a minute to explain a couple things. No action items, just. Thank you, Fred.
There you go.
Well, you want to copy of that? Okay. Nobody else.
Ready?
Yep.
Kurt Bolger, York County Assessor. Right now, we're currently working on setting values. That's, the abstract is due March 19th. What I handed you gentlemen this morning is what I'm going to probably most likely be proposing for ag land values for 2023. The first column there you see is the land type. I think that's green on yours. You have black and white on here. The 1A1, that's your best irrigated land all the way down to the bottom. The 4A, and the dry land, and the grassland. The next column are the 2023 values that I'm going to be proposing. The next column after that's the 2022 values that were last year, and then the percent change. How did I come to that? If you look at the bottom of your sheet there, the statistics before the 2023 values, if we were just to take last year's values and just use them again this year, you would see we'd have those percentages down in those boxes there. That median number is the key number there, 68%. If you look over to the right for acceptable ranges of value for ag land, it has to be 69 to 75%. So I've been below the acceptable range. So in tinkering with the numbers, and these numbers, mind you, are values per acre. So with the changes, the 23 changes, that takes our median up to 71%, which is in that acceptable range for ag land values. And so that's what we've got for there. So this is just more information purposes only for you guys. If you want to know more about how I got to those numbers, please stop by the office. The door is always open unless it's shut. So
And the
Thanks.
acceptable ranges, that's a state acceptable range?
that's
from the state
statute.
assessor?
Yep, that's actually statute.
Thanks, Kurt.
Yep. Any questions? Come on down.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
At this point in time, we will adjourn the Board of Equalization. We will resume as the Board of Commissioners. And we're up to a whole bunch of resolutions here. The discuss and act on resolution to sign the application for CDBG funds will be first up. Go ahead and come forward. Name, please, for the,
Laura McDougall, Partners Health Department.
thank you.
I'm here to answer any questions. I know these were, I believe these were sent to Tom Bliss from Sandover to Pelican. So, there's, I know we have at least 4 exhibits here that were provided, so
We'll take them one at a time.
maybe even 5. Yeah, 5, I count 5 now, yes.
I just went off the exhibits at the top.
Yes, yes. So however I can help this or answer any questions, I'd be happy to. This is all part of the actual application that we expect that CDBG funds.
So the first one that we're going to take up, obviously, is discuss and act on resolution, sign the application for CDBG funds. And this is just for review, this is the money that will be used to restore our building
Yes.
up to
To remodel the Four Corners Health Department.
handicap accessible and just bring it into the century, so
Yep.
to speak. And so, obviously, when we're dealing with grant dollars, and in this case, it is federal grant dollars that is funneled down to the state, which is funneled to the county, and then ends up in Four Corners' hands. There is a fair amount of paperwork involved, and this will be it for this part of it. Then we get into the construction part, and then there'll be a little bit more of the paperwork. So, the resolution to sign it is the first one up. Any questions on this one, guys?
Two general questions, I guess, as we start to go through this. One, I mean, I think this is all just very standard grant form. Did we, county attorney's office looked through all of
I sent
everything
it to
pre?
to
Okay.
both of them, but I've never heard back.
Okay. Yep. Very good. And then our auditor had some questions. Did she review? Or
I sent it to her.
Okay.
I have not.
Okay. Very good.
And that was,
Yeah, right.
she wouldn't have got to that yet. So,
Yeah, okay.
her questions were going to be pertaining to where
the
we go through.
fund side,
Yeah,
on
not
the behind the
against it.
side.
Yeah,
Yep.
but it's just, where do we,
Right.
because this wasn't budgeted money. You gotta figure out what's the best practice for us to do. So the two options is open up
Right.
the budget and amend the budget to put this in there or to run it through inheritance. So she's gonna advise us on that.
Would make a motion that we adopt a resolution to sign the application for CDBG funds.
Thank you, Daniel.
Second.
Thank you. Any other questions or around that?
CDBG is Community Development Block Grant.
Roll call, please.
Gross.
Yes.
Sykes?
Yes.
Ziegler? Fair?
Yes.
And Hopper.
Yes. Next up is discuss and act on citizens' participation plan. And as you can imagine, these came from Sam, and like you stated, they're just same paperwork. Every community, every project, bang, bang, bang. And you say, Laura, I mean, it's all gonna look the same, just our name's different. Any questions on this one?
Move to approve the citizen participation plan.
That's worse than CDBG.
It is.
Thank you, Daniel.
Over here.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Gross.
Yes.
Fair?
Yes.
Ziegler? Sykes?
Yes.
Hopper.
Yes. Discuss and act on applicant's statement of assurance and certificates. Certifications.
Randy, you go for a resolution.
No, this is just motion.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Jack.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Sykes,
Yes.
Ziegler,
Yes.
Bear,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Omenauer.
Yes. Discuss and act on residential anti-displacement and relocation assistance plan.
And to assure everyone there won't be, as part of this project, there will not be any residents displaced. I'll be right,
Nobody's living in your building?
living in our building.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
It's nice.
yeah.
I would make a motion to accept the residential anti-displacement and relocation assistance plan.
Thank you, Daniel.
Second.
Thank you, Stan. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Brooks,
Yes.
Bear,
Yes.
Ziegler, Sykes,
Yes.
Omenauer.
Yes. And the last one, discuss and act on officials of the grantee acting in their official capacity through an interlocal agreement with the Economic Development District.
Waiver. I must have typed that one
That's fine. Waiver of procurement process
off.
request. You just typed in everything else. I'll make that motion. I'll jump into it. We're not gonna stop now, I don't think.
I'll
Sec-
second.
There we go. All right. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Omenauer.
Yes.
Sykes,
Yes.
Ziegler,
Yes.
Bear,
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you very much. When do you need these back? For tomorrow afternoon?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, thank you so much.
And the process is,
So we are currently in the process of negotiating to hire a procurement, a performance criteria developer who is going to help us hire the contractor to do the
Okay.
plans development. So,
okay.
yes, so we're in the middle of procuring
Uh-huh.
according to all those federal regulations.
Stay in touch.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, next up is discuss and act on resolution to authorize the signature for the cyber hygiene, the CISA. This is, Daniel, do you know a little bit more about it? This has to do with Homeland Security and the scanning.
Yep, and in doing so, it makes us eligible for some more federal grant money for cyber security. And so I believe that this agreement is basically that they can run the scans and stating a contact person should they find something that is scary, that somebody they can notify that would get to the right people so that we can correct it. Do we, like the one that I'm looking at here is just generic, we don't have it filled out. Do we have one that we've put in names and?
I have one that, because the question is like, they want, I filled out one.
Okay.
But obviously we can change whatever you would like.
Sure.
I didn't put anything about authorizing the officials, title, emails, the last page I didn't have any of that.
Okay.
I just put in that it's York County, Nebraska,
Yep.
and we're gonna be called the YCNE, York County, Nebraska.
Okay.
That's what I talked to Nicholas from
Yep.
home, and he helped me go through.
Perfect.
this and fill
Okay.
this out.
Yep.
So obviously then I stopped because we need somebody to authorize someone to get those emails and take that.
Right. So yeah, I guess we can come up with who that right person would be. I think it would be good to be somebody that's, monitoring their emails regularly. I mean, I think we all do, but somebody that's, receiving information on the regular that can disseminate that out, whether that's somebody on the tech committee or if we put more onto the clerk's office and ask them to send it out to us. I don't know what the best plan is there.
Well, I think obviously it's a good plan. If Homeland Security is going to come in and monitor and our IP addresses and see
Yep.
if there's any attacks on us and different things like that, I think it's a good plan. I also think that we have, obviously the clerk's office isn't, whether they like it or not, it's an integral part of all of our stuff, and to have her at the center is fine, and probably the way it should be. I think that in the current state that we are in, trying to figure out our IT, that in this, we not only have, because we have, in a sense, two separates right now, that in the technical point of contact, we actually need to name a couple of them in there.
Yep.
Obviously Global Tech and
Yep.
Soren Group
Right.
for the time being on that.
Yep.
And then if things change, then obviously we can, ask to
Right.
change that contact stuff.
Yep.
So I agree. I think that this would be something that if it's found, Kelly would alert all of us.
Right. Yep.
As well as the technical group, and that can be done, by the
Yep.
email.
Yep.
And this needs to be done by a resolution, which we do not, we have some examples of resolutions. And I can't think of his name right now, from Homeland, Nicholas.
He sent me, because I asked him, I said, "Can you
Sure.
do this resolution?" I said, "Can you give me an example?" And he did send me an example. I didn't-
Okay.
He sent an example of
What he's,
City of Fremont.
Okay, sure. Yep.
That I had seen one of his, so we can get that written up and get those appropriate names in there
Right.
and stuff like that.
Yep.
But I think that makes sense for us to
Right.
do that.
Yep. So yeah, let's see, I guess, I'm trying to think, do we want all of that in the resolution, in the minutes, I mean, in the motion, to put the clerk's office as contact number one, and then the two technical contacts?
what he explained to me is like, they would do like a weekly scan or
Okay. Yep.
whatever, start with the weekly, and then maybe every 2 weeks, maybe
Sure.
monthly. And then he would just email one person, and then that person would email
Okay. Yep.
the IT.
Sure. Okay.
So that's the way he explained it to me, and then
Yep.
there's like different levels, there's like a high,
Sure. Right.
extreme,
Yep.
or whatever.
Immediately. Yep. Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, but yes, you should probably put both of those groups on there and
Right.
whoever you choose.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good, so I would make a motion that we adopt a resolution for the cyber hygiene, where's that? Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, having the clerk's office be technical point of contact number one. And our two IT contractors will receive that information as well.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Over here.
Somewhere over there. Okay, any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Brooks.
Yes.
Ziegler. Sykes.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, last up is discuss and act on final draft of the financial statements. The financial statements, as we forwarded to you guys, it says preliminary. Daniel, myself, and Kelly met with Jill, who's Jill Flay with Regier, Monroe, and Carr. She was on location at another audit, and we met with her for a couple hours yesterday. We went through it. I did talk to her last night. She didn't have an opportunity to get what's called the final draft out at that point in time. The numbers would not change at the very end. In pages, I believe there were 49 to 54. There was some 5 different cases where we have to come up with an action plan of how we will remedy deficiencies that they found in our audit. Those we did yesterday. Daniel, Kelly, and myself, and Megan was actually done with her tax sales at the time, so she sat in on that. And so we did, and we have to write action plans yet, but the action plan that goes into this final draft is, for instance, on the first one was, we will come up with a policy by April 30th, I think was the date we used. Come up with policy by April 30th and implement it at that time. And it essentially used April 30th on all 5 of those. As far as the audit itself is concerned, the numbers part of it was fine.
Yep.
There's nothing that was glaring. There's some changes in there in the funds. There's bound to be. We used some of our money for the first time last year in our inheritance into this budget, and this is actually, I should say, this is the audit for the 21-22 year, not the 22-23 year. So, we had bond funds go out to do infrastructure, to bridges, so that money is all moving around, but the rest of it, you would agree that,
Right.
that
Yep.
everything looked healthy.
Yep.
So, the reason for this is we have a deadline of March 7th to turn in this information to a site that, with a bond, we need to turn in an annual review of our money. Even though our audit is not due to the state till June 30th, we have a year to complete the audit. This EMA site, and I won't be, you maybe can say what EMA stands for, but this EMA site is where we have to turn in our audit, so the people that can see our financial stability, and they are the people that bought our bonds, So that is kind of why we pushed here a little bit to try to get this done, so we can get the final draft in today to EMA. By the
No, I
end
don't
of
know
the day.
what this stands for.
No, I don't either. But I did talk with our Jay Spearman, who helped with our bonds, just to get some clarity on that yesterday. And it's just a timeline they set up for a review of our audit is all it is. Just doesn't coincide with the state's timeline of when our audit has to be in. Just one little wrinkle in county government that makes it fun.
So, like most of the deficiencies focused on, we don't have the staff to have backup of all of the, I take in this much money for the license plate, where does it go? There's somebody looking over my shoulder to make it happen. So I imagine that's part of our action plan.
The one, which I believe is number 2, it most definitely will be in there every year, because we just don't have the staff to do it. The others are just things that probably the turnover in staff, through the last couple of years have led to deficiencies of how we've done things. Are things already being done? Absolutely. Reconciliations are being done differently, but we just have to put it in writing how we're already doing what we're doing.
I would make a motion that we approve the financial statements, I guess. Is that, do you want draft, or I think, yeah. So just a motion to approve the financial statements.
Thank you. Any other
Final
questions?
draft. Whatever.
Right, yeah.
Hearing no other questions, roll call please.
Brooks,
Yes.
Sykes,
Yes.
Ziegler,
Yes.
Bear,
Yes.
and Overmeyer.
Yes. Okay, that brings us to the end. Committee reports is up next. Anybody want to jump and go first?
Well, I went to see Harv. We talked about the roads. And one of the questions I had was, how expensive is it to maintain paved roads versus a well-traveled gravel road? And to see if we need to do more paving. And he said his priority is to keep the paved roads we have in good shape right now, and that's costly. And so he was thinking that maybe it's not right now imminent that we add any more paved roads, is what the impression I got from him. So we talked quite at length about the cost of maintaining the paved roads they have now and what his plans are to do that. And some of them need help badly. For instance, the one by the plant, the ethanol plant, that stretch needs work, so on and so forth. So we talked about that, and I asked him about the work. Is it being done? Is it getting done? Are the contractors getting the bridges done? And so on and so forth. He said, doing pretty good. Van Kirk hasn't started yet. Then I asked about his lack of employees. He hired one new one, so we're only down 4. So he's hoping for one more next time. I kind of see him. Other than that, I went to Lincoln on the Wednesday to hear the hearings and was interested in what they're going to do about our election. And so the bills, the numbers of the bills that they were talking about were 6, if I can read my 75, 228, and 236. And Jen Day's in charge of 675. She is very liberal. She wants everybody to make sure everybody can vote and has all kinds of ideas to make that happen. And one of her ideas, she had 9 ways to show proof that you're for identity proof purposes. And somebody pointed out that some of those proofs don't include a picture. So she said, well, that's true. We need to have a picture ID. So there's only a few that do have pictures, like passport and driver's license, but so on. And then Erdkamp has Bill 228 and 236, and he wants to restrict voting quite a bit. So that you vote in person, and that the only people that would not vote in person would be people in the nursing home and in the military. So that's his. And then he also proposed having a day off. Everybody have a day off for voting. So.
Except for the people that run the election.
Right. Could have
I heard her.
vacation day, which very costly.
Oh, sure.
Then that probably won't happen. So anyway, the end result of that is they have a lot of work to do to come up with a plan to make elections work, and with a voter ID, which we passed as people last time. So, and then the other one I was interested in had nothing to do with the county. Was there was a bill to restrict medical people from changing the gender of people under 18. And before they got to that hearing, there were other hearings going on. That's the one I wanted to hear and promote that we do not allow them to do that before they're 18. But before he got to that hearing, they had other hearings that lasted forever, so I didn't get to stay for that one. But one of the hearings that I did hear that ahead of that was on making sure we have interpreters for patients that see a doctor. And the doctors were testifying that it's very important to have interpreters there for people that do not understand English. And that went on and on and on about how important that was. And the state does not fund, Medicaid and Medicare does not pay for that interpreter. So they want the state to pay for that. So they're asking the state to pay for that. So there was a lot of discussion about that. And then, how many interpreters would you need? Well, one guy said, I have 50 languages I work with. So, wow. So, it's just an interesting hearing.
Filibusters.
And I just thought about my forefathers when they came. They didn't speak English, but they managed to buy land. They managed to take care of their legal somehow on their own. They didn't beg government to take care of all their legal needs. But this is where we're at. This is the day and age we're at. So those are the only two things I really did as far as committee reports.
Okay. Thanks, Dan. Daniel, you got it?
So last week, we met as a tech committee, and from discussions that have been had and the presentations that we had, we decided to build upon the tech committee, and so we invited a representative from each of the departments to come in, form a subcommittee, if you will, with the goal of coming up with a county IT policy. So right now, we really have no written policy as far as procedures for new employees coming in, for new computers that are getting put on the network, new servers, email policies, password management, and we're finding that we're working as individual offices, but could we work more efficiently if everyone was on the same page and had the same policy in front of them? And so the goal of the tech subcommittee will be to come up with a overall IT policy that meets the needs of all the offices, so that all the offices can function on a cohesive playing field, I guess. And so we've kind of it started out reviewing our IT providers. We've kind of taken a step back from that, feeling that it's better to set a policy, and then if that policy warrants reviewing our IT providers, we would do it at that point in time. So it was a good discussion. We've got some takeaways. The offices are doing some brainstorming and discussion in their offices, and then we'll be meeting again next week to kind of take that brainstorm and start putting it into seeing what we can do for writing a policy. YCDC Exec Committee meets tomorrow, and the annual banquet is coming up. I think that's next week, next Thursday. And
I
you already
believe that
touched it.
Any of us
Right,
that
yep.
want to go to that
Yep,
annual
it
banquet
would be-
are welcome to go. We just need to make sure we tell the YCBC office, and I think here directly.
Correct. Yeah, I think that
numbers wise.
Yeah, RSVP date might be today, or maybe it was yesterday. But I just have an email here wondering how many might be going, so they'll still accept us if we want to go. And then you already touched on the budget committee meeting briefly yesterday, and we talked about that. So that's what I've got for the moment.
Okay.
I attended the same technology meeting with Daniel. Part of the conversation that we had with regard to the cyber hygiene seems to be part of it, the Homeland Security. Let's make sure that we as a county function so we aren't open the door to the invasion, ransomware and those kind of things, which is under that Homeland Security kind of thing. Friday I went to the LB 79 and CA 6 and CA 7 hearing, Erd Camp's consumption tax conversation. There were and it really addresses what Kirk gave us today. Farmers, as it's set up, don't have a voice to say, well, my land didn't go up 4% in terms of production, but my taxes did. Is that appropriate? And so there were probably 30 people that addressed the consumption with LB 79 from that perspective of we don't have a voice, we keep paying for our land over and over, even if the land's paid for, we still don't own it because the state comes out and says, hey, you gotta pay now this to have it and continue it. So it was an interesting discussion. Then there were probably 10 lobbyists that were there representing, the county was one of them, representing insurance, new cars, realtors. And so it was an interesting day, and it has to get out of committee. There's also, I learned that there's an effort to put it on petition to bring it to the voters that way. So we're trying to cover it in two different directions. And so the EPIC option is how it's discussed outside of the hearing, because it was LB 79, but a number of the testimonies came through as this is an EPIC option kind of conversation. And it was interesting watching I don't know if there were 9 senators there, their response to it and how it's going, whether it'll get out of committee to the floor and then from the floor with the, what do you call that, conversation forever, filibuster.
There you go.
You know, but it was an interesting day. I'm glad I saw that process.
We have a aging meeting. It's scheduled for this morning, but they had to move it, so they moved it tomorrow. Other than that, I don't have anything other than reading the newspaper today, found out that there's one senator that's bringing up all of these filibuster motions for one reason: to stop the other ones, the ones that the people have brought up.
Yeah.
And she even admitted that. I don't think that ought to be allowed. That's it.
Okay. We got an annual report through our audit. We are used as a conduit to run a couple other bonds, and one of them is York General. So York General did, if anybody wants to see some stuff, they sent in their annual report. The other one is York University, that is in its first year of that one. And even though that makes our audit, it has nothing to do with our dollars, but it makes it because we were used as a conduit to run that fund through. We also have an annual report from CASA. CASA is somebody that we house in our courthouse, and then we also give them money. And so they turn in an annual report if anybody wants to see that. I also got information from, and I will get this to, as well as the Bold Alliance, Bold, Nebraska, Center for Infrastructure and Economic Development. I don't know if you guys have seen any of this information that came in, or if you've gotten any emails. I've gotten the emails. Former Governor Johans, Terry Grandstand, Heidi Heitkamp, and Ross Branson are the directors of this. But this is a website you can go to. It's talking about economic development of bringing these green alternatives into your county and possible. I know on their website they have a database that has possible zoning and different things like that. So I will turn that over to Chris for them to review. I know that meeting is coming up. There's 2 more meetings planned. Was it week after week, 13th and 20th?
I think it's 20 and 27.
For the zoning was going to meet. 20 and 27. And that's at the convention. Fairgrounds at the Holtis convention there. So there would be a microphone involved in that. Woody and myself talked a little bit this last week, and he brought up something to me about, he said something, I guess, a couple weeks ago, which made me scratch my head a little bit about how we were saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I tried today to go one nation under God instead of one nation pause and under God. So I see your point, but it's hard to change the way people have done that for years and years and years and years, so. But Woody, and it was interesting reading, if anybody wants to read this, that Woody got me on the background of that.
Yeah, it's flag etiquette, and yet it's not what we've done in practice, so it's, you know, where do we start to make the practice match up with what the etiquette says, that we can be on the front edge of it.
After you've tried it a few times, it does come easier.
Roles. I am part of a state committee, that's the Public Service Commission Advisory 911 Council. We did meet last Wednesday, and been on that committee for 5 years now, and slowly implementing next generation 911, and that we are actually, the southeast region is what our region is. We are actually slated, I think, this summer, and we'll be the last one. Currently, just over half of the state in miles is involved, but not in people. They're getting ready to bring Douglas and Sarpy County on within the next month, and that's quite an undertaking, because they not only, their backup, their redundancy is actually Council Bluffs, Potawatomi County, I think is what it is. So now we're dealing with 2 different states. So that's been quite an interesting board to serve on. We met last week. We met yesterday for a couple hours and went over the numbers. We've got some reports to turn in over the next month on the ARPA and the tribal money, and just keeps going on and on and on. So, do you have anything this morning?
I'm gonna go back to shooting this afternoon. Y'all
Active
shooting
shooting. Okay. Anybody else have anything? Okay. Thank you. We are adjourned.
Can I see that CASA report, please?
Oh.